All right, top focus and beyond right now. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have now signed a formal mutual defense pact in a move that majorly strengthens a decades-long partnership between both the countries. According to an official statement, this agreement aims to develop aspects of defense cooperation between the two countries and strengthen joint deterrence against any aggression. The agreement states that any aggression against either country shall be considered an aggression against both. This comes as Gulf Arab states grow increasingly wary about the reliability of the US as the long-standing security guarantor. Israel's attack on Hamas in Qatar last week heightened those concerns. The deal was signed by Saudi's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif in Riyadh, where both the sides held an official session of talks attended by the delegation of both the countries. Pakistan has fostered close links with Saudi Arabia for decades, with over 2.5 million of its nationals estimated to be living and working in the kingdom. Now, during the official session of talks, according to the statement, the two sides reviewed the historic and strategic relations between both the countries and a number of topics of common interest. And well, for more on this and for more details on Pakistan's Saudi pact, we're now being joined by my colleague Shivan. Shivan, over to you.
Yeah, Raisha, a huge development when it comes to Saudi Arabia and Pakistan is concerned. And as far as regional stability is concerned, it poses a lot of questions. The response has already come from the Indian side. Early in the morning today, the Indian government mentioned that India was aware of this development between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia and that it had been under consideration for a while now. And this defense pact is basically formalizing a long-standing arrangement between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. So now if one is attacked, then both countries will respond. Now, the MEA also mentioned that India will study the national security implications that this pact will have for India and also for regional and global stability. Let's break that down a little further now. Now, as we understand, it was just 4 months ago that India and Pakistan had an intense conflict which lasted 4 days. Now, the worst clashes that have happened between the two countries since 1999. Operation Sindoor was launched and it has only been paused. If there is any misadventure going forward by Pakistan, India's framework for a response is clear: Operation Sindoor. Now, with this new pact between Pakistan and Saudi Arabia in place, what role can one expect from Saudi Arabia if hostilities between India and Pakistan resume? That remains to be seen. And there are a lot of questions being raised over here. Will Saudi Arabia have access to Pakistani nuclear arsenal? Because one responds if both respond if either one of them is attacked. So does that give them access? Does it give Saudi Arabia access to Pakistan's nuclear arsenal? And also we know that Qatar was attacked. Doha was struck by Israeli strikes just recently. And of course, that raises the other question. The announcement has come just days after that Doha strike. So is this a message to Israel and the US, knowing that US backs Israel very, very strongly? It is its strongest backer. So is it spelling mistrust brewing between Saudi Arabia and the US? So these are a lot of questions which have come up because of this latest development, which is really big.
Right, absolutely, Shivan. And India is, of course, assessing this pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan. But give us a sense of India-Saudi Arabia ties so far.
India and Saudi Arabia, they have very close friendly ties, and it doesn't start now. It goes back, from the time of India's independence. Strong economic and defense ties, diplomatic relations have existed since 1947. Saudi Arabia ranks as India's third largest supplier of crude and petroleum products. India is the second largest trade partner of Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia is the fifth largest trading partner of India. And bilateral trade between the two countries, it stood at $41.88 billion in 2024-25. Now, the Indian community, we mentioned the Pakistani community in Saudi Arabia, 2.5 million. Indian community is as strong, or stronger rather, I would say, 2.7 million people in Saudi Arabia. That's the size of the Indian community. The Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, MBS Mohammed bin Salman, he visited India last in 2023 for the G20 summit. And Indian Prime Minister and MBS, they both co-chaired the first leaders meeting meeting of the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council, the SPC. That meeting happened in New Delhi. And the follow-up to that, India-Saudi SPC, it happened in April earlier this year. I'm mentioning April because it is extremely significant. That's when Prime Minister Modi visited Saudi Arabia. And during that visit, which was cut short, both sides agreed to collaborate on establishing 2 oil refineries in India, among many other MOUs which were signed. And it was during this trip, it was cut short because that is the time the Pahalgam terror attack, the first escalation which came from Pakistan's side, the 22nd of April, that took place. And Prime Minister Modi had to cut short that visit and come right back to Delhi. So India-Saudi Arabia ties have been strong. There have been no kinks or any kind of issues in that front. And that is where things stand. A lot of questions, as I mentioned, those will remain to be answered. We'll need to wait and watch how this one pans out.
Right, absolutely, Shivan. Thanks for getting us the latest on this.